Rachel Carson, DDT, and the modern-day environmental movement. Rachel Carson was born May 27th of 1907 in Springdale, Pennsylvania. As a child, she spent a lot of time exploring nature around her home. She won several prizes for her writing when she was small, and she attended the Springdale Grammar School, which kind of led to her deciding to major in English. She went to college at the Pennsylvania College for Women, where she wrote for the school paper The Arrow. One of her most famous articles was Broken Lamps, which dealt with Carson's struggle with deciding whether to pursue passion or do what she knew she could do to earn a living. But she ended up changing her major to biology because of Mary Scott Skinker, her biology teacher, who also taught Carson that women could succeed without men and inspired Carson to further her education after undergraduate. So in 1929, Carson was accepted to Johns Hopkins and earned her Master's of Marine Zoology in 1932. She taught at the University of Maryland from 31 to 33 and worked for the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries from 1935 to 1952 as an aquatic biologist. She's most well known for a series of 3 books, which are both scientific and romantic in nature. The first of which is Under the Sea Wind, published in 1941. It's about the migratory journey of some birds and a female eel. It's really poetic but also very scientific, and it was kind of swept under the rug when the U.S. entered World War II. Her next book, The Sea Around Us, was published in 1951, and that really rocketed her to fame. The theme of that book was that the sea is the womb of life of pretty much everything on the planet. And then the last of that series was published in 1955, The Edge of the Sea. It was just as popular as the one before it, and the theme of that book was that barring catastrophe, nature could sustain itself. And then DDT comes along, which has been called both the miracle and said catastrophe. DDT is dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, and it was discovered in 1839 by Swiss scientist Paul Mueller. Its active ingredient is chlorinated hydrocarbons, and it's an extremely effective insecticide and pesticide which works by causing hyperactivity and eventually paralysis. It's also effective because it leaves a residue and retains its toxicity for a very long time. It was used during World War II to eliminate malaria and typhus for the Allied forces. It helped with cases of the bubonic plague, and it helped save several major world food supplies in Switzerland, Naples, the Netherlands, and many other places. And it was used by a lot of government organizations, the USDA, the Allied forces, the Axis powers, farmers. It was pretty much used everywhere because it was the miracle chemical. Some problems that arose from DDT is that it's applied as a dust. As much as 2/3 could remain in the atmosphere. Relatively little actually reaches the desired area. It's hard to cover only the desired surfaces, and it accumulates in the environment, which means it doesn't dissipate with time, and it can accumulate in organisms as well. Some negative effects of it on birds are that it causes mutation, sterility, and thin shells in eggs in some cases. It can cause mortality of eggs in fish, inhibits their thyroid activity, and causes physical defects. And on humans, it is a carcinogen, but no studies have shown that it directly causes cancer in people since 1972. Carson's response was to write Silent Spring in 1962. And it was attacked by the USDA and several major chemical companies. But basically it was her call that people really needed to be mindful of the use of pesticides. It wasn't a direct attack on the use of DDT, but it really brought environmental concerns to the public eye for the first time in history. So for the next 40 years, Carson died in 1964 of cancer. In 1969, the EPA was formed. In 1970, we have the first Earth Day. Then in 1972, DDT was banned because of Carson's book, largely. In 1973, we have the Endangered Species Act. In 1990, we have the Oil Pollution Act. And then in 2002, we have the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which allows the EPA to limit the use of pesticides on food. So in conclusion, DDT did save hundreds of thousands of lives. Rachel Carson did not crusade against it, which is a common misconception. And really what her legacy is she brought conservation and preservation to the public eye and really made people be aware of man's potential impact on the environment.